4 decades, the Bermuda Triangle has swallowed ships and planes without a trace. Most call it a myth, legend. But what if it was never about what went missing, but what was never supposed to come back? This is the true story of a pilot who vanished into nothing, only to return untouched by time 35 years later. And the daughter who followed him into the unknown. The last time Angela heard her father's voice, he said something no one could explain. There's light beneath the ocean like it's breathing. Then silence. Plane vanished. But 35 years later, a man claiming to be her father knocks on her door, unchanged. The knock came at 3:17 p.m. Angela Reyes was reading a bedtime story to her son Leo, whose fever had finally broken after a long week of hospital visits and worry. She wasn't expecting anyone. The delivery app hadn't buzzed. The dog hadn't barked. The knock was soft but deliberate. 3 evenly spaced taps. She opened the door to see a man in a faded navy uniform. "Angela?" he asked, his voice cracking, emotional, familiar. He stared. "I know this is impossible," he said. "But it's me. It's Dad." Her mouth went dry. Her knees buckled. Couldn't be. Her father, Commander Elias Reyes, vanished aboard Navy Flight 441 in 1990. His body was never found. She had stood beside her mother at the memorial, clutching a folded flag. She had memorized the haunting transmission. His last words before contact was lost. "There's light beneath the ocean like it's breathing." Where? Then static. Now 35 years later he stood in front of her. The same square jaw, salt and pepper hair, pressed uniform. Not a day older than when he disappeared. Angela rushed inside, slamming the door behind him. Her heart pounded as she locked it. She stared at the man in disbelief. "Where have you been?" she whispered. "I don't know how to explain it," he said. "I never thought I'd make it back." She demanded answers. He offered pieces. There was a shift, a rift in the sky. One moment we were flying over calm waters, and the next there was no sky, just light, like it was breathing. Angela's hands trembled. "That's exactly what you said in your last message." He nodded. "Because I remember saying it. Right before everything turned inside out." The next day the government arrived. Homeland Security, military intelligence, people in black suits. Agent Cara Dune was the first to step through the door. "This man claims to be Commander Elias Reyes?" she asked Angela flatly. "Yes. I believe him." A DNA test was rushed. Angela sat beside the man in the interrogation room, watching as samples were drawn and whispers filled the hallways. The results were conclusive. 100% match. Elias Reyes. But something was wrong. His blood work showed no aging markers. His cellular structure was preserved, like he had skipped 35 years. Agent Dune looked unnerved. "This isn't just a missing persons case anymore." Elias was taken to a secured facility. Angela was told to keep quiet. But the story leaked. Media outlets exploded with theories. Alien abduction, cryogenics, time travel. Angela was less interested in headlines. She needed answers. She turned to Dr. Henry Sloan, a theoretical physicist known for fringe studies into spacetime anomalies. He had been following the case from the moment it broke. "You want the truth," he said when she met him at a lecture in Boston. "It's out there, buried in the Bermuda Triangle. I've mapped it. There are patterns, disappearances that follow a frequency. It's not random." Angela quit her job at the linguistic lab. She packed Leo off to her mother's. She dove headfirst into a world of vanished ships, temporal anomalies, and classified documents. Sloan shared stories from other families, crews that disappeared only to reappear decades later, unchanged, all linked to the same triangle of ocean. She learned of Project Helix. But what Sloan didn't tell her was that he had once worked for DARPA, testing technology that might bend time. Angela thought she was working with a scientist. In truth, she was stepping into the shadow of something much bigger. 3 weeks later, Angela and Sloane boarded a private vessel with a captain who owed Sloane a favor. They charted a course to the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. As they sailed, the air grew heavy. Instruments glitched. GPS spun. Angela stood on the deck, her eyes fixed on the waves. "He said it looked like the ocean was breathing," she whispered. At 2:06 a.m., the water went still. Utterly still. The stars above vanished. The sea turned a silvery black. Then a blinding light erupted from beneath the ship. Angela stumbled backward. The crew screamed. The light pulsed once. Twice, like a heartbeat. And then everything went dark. Angela awoke to silence. There was no rocking of the waves, no creak of wood, no sound of wind or sea. Just a low, throbbing hum, like a giant heart beating beneath her. She opened her eyes to an alien sky. Streaks of lavender light ran across what should have been night. The stars were gone. The ocean around the boat shimmered unnaturally, more liquid mirror than water. Dr. Sloane sat slumped at the edge of the deck, staring into the horizon. The ship's captain and crew were nowhere in sight. Angela staggered upright. "Where are we?" Sloane didn't look at her. "Time prison." "What?" "We're outside of normal time. Caught between moments. This is where the triangle spits things it can't digest." Angela scanned the sea. And then she saw it. An old wooden frigate drifting silently toward them. Cannons along the sides. Torn black sails. Her heart skipped. "Is that a pirate ship?" As it passed, she saw faces aboard. Pale, expressionless. Watching her with hollow eyes. They kept drifting. Behind it, a B-25 bomber. Floating. Silent. Intact. A freighter labeled San Ignacio, 1956. And then voices. Faint at first. Then louder. Human voices. Angela climbed to the edge of the boat. On a floating piece of wreckage, she saw a man in a soaked trench coat waving desperately. They pulled him aboard. He spoke Spanish. His name was Tomas. Cuban fisherman. Lost at sea in 1963. He hadn't aged a day. Others followed. A weathered British soldier in full World War II uniform. Name: Henry Barrett. Disappeared in 1942 off the coast of Bermuda. A barefoot man with wild eyes and 18th century garb. Claimed to be Captain Elijah Cross, lost with his ship in 1702. They were all the same. Alive. Untouched by time. Each had a story of sudden light, of disorientation, of finding themselves drifting in this liminal sea. Angela tried to comprehend. But one thing was clear. No one had ever returned. Until Elias. Back on land, Elias sat in a glass-walled room beneath a military complex. Electrodes on his temples. Needles in his arms. Agent Cara Dune stood behind the glass, arms folded. "He's not lying," the lead scientist said. "We've verified his identity. He hasn't aged. His cells are preserved in a way we can't explain." Cara watched him. She was beginning to doubt everything she'd been told in her training. The footage, the reports, the doctrine that the Bermuda Triangle was just a myth. But what disturbed her more were the documents she'd found earlier that day. Ones buried under 30 years of clearance. Project Helix. Quantum Geospatial Displacement Program. An experimental joint venture between DARPA and a private firm called Helix Dynamics. The signature on one of the documents chilled her. Dr. Henry Sloane. In the time prison, Angela confronted Sloane. "You knew." He didn't deny it. "I helped build the original predictive model. We were trying to create a stabilized rift, an artificial wormhole that could transport matter safely. Into the Bermuda Triangle. No, that was the problem. We miscalculated. The rift pulled energy from the wrong place. It opened a fold in space-time and dumped everything it couldn't process here." Angela reeled. "You caused this. I didn't know what it would become. You lied to me. I brought you here because I believe you're the only one who can stop it." Sloane gestured toward the ocean floor, barely visible through the shimmering depths. "There's a pattern down there. Symbols. I've seen them in ancient maps, ship logs, even cave paintings in Bermuda. They're not human. Angela stared. Her background in linguistic archaeology surged to the forefront. Give me something to write with. Days passed. Or was it hours? Time bled together. Angela, with the help of Barrett and Cross, retrieved a chunk of seafloor stone from a shallow trench nearby. Carved into it were intricate symbols, like language but alien. She translated the ones she could recognize. Gateway. Anchor. Contain. It wasn't a trap. It was a prison. And something inside was trying to get out. Back in the US, Agent Dune dug deeper. She accessed declassified fragments of Project Helix. The program continued long after the initial failure. It was privately funded and directed by military contractors with no oversight. Their goal: weaponize time. One memo read, "If we can send enemy combatants into a non-linear temporal fold, there is no return, no trial, no mess." Angela wasn't just trapped by accident. She was never supposed to come back. Angela stood above the symbols etched into a coral cavern. She had decoded enough. A mechanism, an activation sequence. "If I trigger this," she told Sloane, "I think we can open a way out. Or something can come through. I don't think we have a choice." The others gathered. Barrett. Plus. Survivors who had been stuck for lifetimes. Angela placed her hand on the center glyph. Glowed. The ocean rumbled. Pulse of energy shook the cavern. Above them, the sky fractured like glass. A rift opened, crimson and swirling. Beyond it, the outline of a world they could recognize. But something was coming through. Large, insectoid, pulsating, alive. Not from their world. Angela screamed as the light overwhelmed her. The light swallowed Angela. One moment she was beneath the sea, staring at a monstrous form emerging through the rift. The next, silence. She fell hard onto metal. Cold air hit her lungs like fire. The sky above her was dark but familiar. Moonlight cut through clouds. She coughed violently, gasping, disoriented. Dr. Sloane lay next to her, unconscious. Beside them, Captain Cross knelt beside Henry Barrett and Tomas, who were waking with confused groans. They were back, but something was wrong. Angela staggered to her feet. A distant sound hummed from above. A helicopter. Blades chopped the air. Lights flooded down. Soldiers swarmed them. Guns up. Barking orders. 3 days later, Angela sat in a debriefing chamber under Langley. "Where have you been?" a stern voice demanded. "Ask your own files," she replied. "Ask Project Helix." The room went cold. The man leading the session didn't speak again. He left, whispering to an aide. Angela stared through the two-way mirror. She knew Cara Dune was on the other side. Watching. Listening. The survivors were separated. Interrogated. Tested. They hadn't aged. Not a day. But the world had. 5 years. Angela had missed 5 years. Leo was now a teenager. Her mother had passed away. The world had changed, politically, technologically. But the Bermuda Triangle had not. In fact, it was growing. Unstable. The same rift that had brought them back was unraveling the fabric of that region. Whirlpools, ship disappearances, anomalous energy readings. It was no longer isolated. Angela was released under surveillance. Sloane disappeared. Officially detained, unofficially vanished. But Cara Dune came to her one night. "I need you to see something," she said. They drove to a military hangar. Inside was Elias. Older now. Changed. But alive. Rescued weeks after the Triangle pulse destabilized. He had stayed behind, trapped for years in that place. Time had caught up with him. "I knew you made it out," he said, voice shaking. Angela ran to him. But the reunion was brief. The rift hadn't sealed completely. The pulse was spreading. Scientists believed if left unchecked, it could destabilize coastlines, pull entire cities into non-linear time. Someone had to go back. Angela begged to be the one. But Elias refused. I've already lost decades. Let me finish it. He took the remnants of Project Helix, blueprints retrieved by Dune, and built a device meant to implode the rift from the inside. It would destroy the anomaly, but he'd never return. At dawn, from a naval vessel near the triangle's edge, Elias dove into the sea. Angela stood on the deck, watching the water churn. For a moment it was peaceful. Then a great light burst from the depths. Just once. And then silence. The rift was gone. Weeks later, Agent Dune resigned. And then she spoke. Press conference. Live broadcast. She exposed everything. The classified experiments, the cover-ups, the missing ships, and the true cost of Project Helix. Angela, meanwhile, published her father's recovered journal, now fully decoded. Became a bestseller. She was interviewed globally, called a truth-bearer, a warrior, a daughter of the lost. But she knew it wasn't over. 3 months later, a report aired on international news. A trawler in the South Pacific had vanished without a trace. Fishermen described strange lights, instruments failing. A child survivor was pulled from a raft, whispering as she clutched her rescuer. "They're back." Cut to black. The truth about the Bermuda Triangle didn't end with one man's return, or his sacrifice. The rift may be sealed, but silence isn't peace. When a child whispers, "They're back" from a new disappearance in the South Pacific, we're forced to ask, was the triangle ever a place at all? Or was it a warning? Audience question. If something ancient was never meant to escape, do you think sealing the rift was enough? Or is the Bermuda Triangle just one of many? Let me know what you believe in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that uncover the secrets the world tries to hide.